Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to J is for Justice. My name is Jay, and I am your host. I am coming at you live from studio outdoors this morning. I'm having my coffee outside and going to go over this Delphi stuff with y'all. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I started a few minutes early to make sure we had no issues with sound or anything like that. Hello, Robin, and hello, Sherry, and Incognito Potato. Juno, welcome in. GB Folk, everybody get comfy. We got some updates for Richard Allen, man. We've got some crazy things going on there in Delphi, Indiana. Thank you. Oh, potato. Sorry, potato. Hey, Carrie. 40 degrees. I know they were freezing up in Delphi, waiting in those lines. We're going to talk about that too. These people have had to go in line as early as 8 p.m. the day before to get into this courtroom. Hey, Crimson. Hey, Evelyn. I'm so glad you guys could join this morning. Oh, it's been a wild 48 hours on YouTube. Yeah, I'll say. It's cold here in Indiana at night and in the morning. Freaking bats. Hey, Lala, good morning. It is absolutely beautiful. If you want to come to Florida, now is the time. Let me tell you, it is, I don't know, probably high 60s right now, sunny, nice breeze. I mean, this is when you want to be in Florida, when the humidity is low. Hey, Quinny. Hey, Cheryl. Good morning. So let's do a little poll before we begin. Put a 1 in chat if you've been following the Delphi updates since the trial started. Isn't it, Lala? Yes, thank God. Like the hurricane came through and then the humidity was gone. So it made recovery a lot easier. Hey, She Who Sees. Put a 1 if you've been following the updates since it started. And then let me know who you're following, because I'm following the following right now. Hey, Lisa. So I'm following Lawyer Lee. She has done an excellent job. These people are tired too, that are sitting through this and giving us updates, man. I really appreciate it. Hey, Butter. And hi, Ashley. And Raven. JLR. You've been following JLR? Oh, ignore the Sarah Boone in chat. That's for this week's trial. So I've been following Lawyer Lee, Andrea Burkhart, and then last night I listened to the Murder Sheets. Have you guys caught up with the Murder Sheets? They've always been this controversial podcast that covered this case, and they like released documents, and there was a lot of controversy around them as well. Same here. Lawyer Lee and Andrea Burkhart. You were wondering what was? What are you talking about? They're loud and beefy. Hidden True Crime is there too. You haven't listened to the Murder Sheets in ages. Well, wait till you hear what they have to say. I would suggest listening to several ASB just because you want to get like a broad idea of what's going on. The Streamlabs. What? I'm confused. Potato. Okay, so let's get started. This is, y'all are going to be shooketh. So here is the Murder Sheets. They're going to be talking about Oh, I watched Teresa too last night. I did watch Teresa, and I forgot about her. The girl from what was that? Unmasked. She came from Teresa. She had someone on that was also in the courtroom. Very good coverage. They went till 3 in the morning. I am committed to bringing you guys these updates. Oh, the Sarah Boone. I know. I can't remember anything in 10 seconds. You're damn right. Okay, so let's take a listen to the murder sheets, and this is going to be audio. And they're going to talk about the process of arriving at the courtroom to get a seat. Take a listen.
What our understanding was when you get up during a break, like if you have to go to the restroom or go for a walk or whatnot, unlike all the pretrial hearings, you then can't get back in the room. And at one point, we were sort of blocked, and it was almost implied that they were going to then open it up to all the people who hadn't made it in that morning, even though our stuff and our bags and all our stuff is like in the room. So that was bizarre. It got worse at lunch. At lunch, it was made clear. It actually was not made clear. At lunch, everyone was dismissed. Then one of the deputies started saying, everyone get your stuff out of the courtroom. It's being cleared. You need to get your stuff out and then get back in line. So we had to wait in line to get into the courthouse. And then, you think, okay, these are our seats for the day. No, at noon, it all starts anew. So here are your options. You go out for lunch like a lot of people needed to do because they're human beings who need to eat and consume nutrients in order to live and hydrate. Or you could be nuts like we are and get back in line, which is what we did. And we just barely got back in. We did not eat or drink anything. And actually, a nice lady gave you a water bottle. Yes, so thank you to her. And but other than that, we barely got in. So we barely got into the afternoon session. So let me just be clear. Obviously, it would be my preference that the people who come in first have the seats for the whole day. That being said, if you're going to open it up anew, maybe you want to get the most people in, and you feel like that's the fairest way. I think it's stupid, but whatever. Let's just say we're doing that. This is where it got even more chaotic. So we line up. We're in this line. Everyone's tense. Everyone's like looking daggers at each other, like, don't you dare move or don't you dare run for the thing. Like, it's like everyone's like, it's like a standoff. You know what I mean? It's like something out of a Sergio Leone film. Like, we're all like, like screeching falcons in the background. And then you have this deputy come out. And let me just be very clear. Let me just be so clear about something. A lot of these deputies are folks from different counties. They don't know what's going on, and it's not their fault. They're there to keep everyone safe and to do what they're told. And they're trying their best. They're just not given a lot to work with here because they're basically being told to do things and convey conflicting messages to everyone. It's not their fault. No one should be getting mad at them or frustrated with them. They're just in a bad situation along with everyone else. So I just want to make that very clear. So they come up and they say, actually, we need to clear the third floor because we need to remove Richard Allen. Okay, well, that seems fair. So then after a lot of negotiating, this line travels backwards downstairs. But of course, there's some people kind of like edging off to the side. Like no one really knows, like maybe the people are just going to run for it. Eventually, somehow this lasts and we make it back upstairs in one piece as a line. And you and I barely got in. A lot of people behind us did not get in. And as we were waiting to finally get in, who walks past us? Richard Allen. So the rule about like moving him around without us on the floor obviously was not like consistently conveyed to everyone. So this is a situation where it's just like, here's what I'm going to suggest. And no one's going to listen to me. Why would you? But I mean, I'm not even listening. You're not even.
Okay, so they're going on about the process to get in, the lines, how they directed the lines through the courthouse. It sounds like a chaotic thing. Okay, so listen to this. I don't think they're even going to go anymore. So let's keep listening.
I'm just rambling. I'm sure the listeners aren't listening, but here's the thought. If you want to have an afternoon session, have a little spot on the second floor where people line up in order to get in line for that. And then those people are ushered up to the seats afterwards. That seems, because I'm going to tell you this, things got heated in this line. There will not be order in the court if you have people fighting physically, verbally, loudly, whatever you want, over seats. People are tired. People are cranky. People really want to get in. And this is just adding fuel to a fire. And I would really hope they would not want that. And I also think it's important for Anya and I to be very open and honest with you. The rules that Judge Gull and her Allen County outfit have created around public access for this trial seem to change on an almost daily basis. And right now, we're at a point that if you want to cover this trial, you need to get by on 2 hours sleep. You have to be sure not to eat or drink anything during the day, because if you go to the bathroom, you're going to lose your seat. And you have to completely skip lunch. And this is what Anya and I have been doing. I think it's having an impact on our health. I'm not sure it's sustainable. It's not. We think, though, it's very important for all of you who have been following this case to continue to get good information about it. So we're going to try to figure out a way to cover this case without killing ourselves. But I just wanted to note that Judge Gull, it's obviously, she obviously doesn't care about giving people information about one of the most important trials in Indiana history. And she doesn't care about the fact that she's given the Indiana legal system a black eye, because people.
Okay. So what do you guys think of that? I don't think Judge Gall wants people even there watching. And that makes it really, really weird. I agree, Robin. I agree.
Money and time to do this.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find another part
to introduce our newest spot a different way. Jason knows what it's.
They have a lot of commercials.
Hold on. Code Wondery. So, he's crashing with is the one who is 4:30 or a little after that time. They didn't even get in.
Okay, listen to this.
As we bang about it, maybe I should have. Well, I mean, we didn't really want to give this attention necessarily, but so today, given what's happened, I think it's fair. So today, as we mentioned, Anya and I had to get in line at 11 p.m. in the freezing cold to see this trial. There were other people who got in line at like 4:30 or a little after that time. They didn't even get in. So they stood shivering in the cold for hours because this case was that important to them, and they didn't get in. So we all get seated. The lucky ones get seated. And then about 20 minutes or so before the session begins, Bob Mata walks in with Rosie.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So now we have a YouTube lawyer, Bob Mata, of the Defense Diaries. Now listen to this. Not only did his wife get booted yesterday and got into it with Judge Gall, but this dude is walking in and he's sitting with the defense, y'all. Let me know what you think about this. Now take a listen. Bob Mata of Defense Diaries, who's a lawyer. Listen, he walks in with Rosie and he's sitting with the defense. Listen.
And then about 20 minutes or so before the session begins, Bob Mata walks in with Rosie, and Rosie gestures to a woman who's sitting in one of the defense seats. I think her name is Sarah, and he asks her to move so that Bob Mata can sit there. So these seats are very valuable commodities and to Bob Mata, and you have to assume that if it is important for the defense to give Bob Mata a seat there, it's because there's a close relationship there, and that he's basically acting as a shill for them. He is their spokesman, going out and repeating their talking points, and he's so closely aligned to them that he is actually sitting with them and their team at this trial. And I don't know if he discloses that to his audience. I don't know if he discloses that at all. But I think it's not the sort of behavior that is ideal. I would never tell a person, oh, you shouldn't listen to this, you shouldn't watch this. If you want to listen to a shill, if you want to watch a shill, by all means. But I just want to make sure that that's an educated choice. And you need to know that a shill is a shill. And Bob Motta is a shill. And what he is offering you is talking points from defense. He's not in exchange for access and seats. He's not giving you a fair and independent analysis. He's working with them and getting things from them, whether he discloses it or not. And that is pretty much the definition of a shill, which is all he is. And I think I referred to him as a disgraced YouTuber, and I think that may have been too generous. But shall we move on? No, let me just say, lead attorney Bradley Rosie escorting somebody into, and just to be clear, when we're talking about this, first row is credentialed media. And then there's a row, I believe, that is reserved for just defense people. So Kathy Allen is in that row, Richard Allen's wife. Janice Allen was in that row, Richard Allen's mother. Marvin Allen, Richard Allen's stepfather, is in that row. All of those people makes a lot of sense that they'd be there to potentially support Richard Allen, support each other during this difficult time. And there's other people in there, and one of them is Bob Motta. And these are seats that I imagine are the defenses to give out, right? Yeah. And again, as indicated by the fact that Bradley Rosie rolled out the red carpet, so to speak, here. So I think in the past.
Okay, so you guys think that that's jealousy because they're miserable. They don't find it sustainable that they can even watch. And then they have Bob Motta getting in with the defense. So I think if the defense is letting him in and has saved him a seat and he has positioned himself as such, I mean, so be it. But I guess it's good to know. Does he tell his audience that he's sitting with Rosie? Because I haven't watched his coverage on this. Bonkers says, I've been following this case for years and I can't stand the nastiness between creators. Need some Z says absolute jealousy. They don't own this case. Well, they did leak some documents, didn't they? They did leak documents. They did their own part. Hold on, I gotta let my dog out. Hold on. She's like, I want to come out. Hold on, guys. Bella, come here. Bella, come on, let's go outside. Come on, Bella. Come on. Come on. Come here. Oh, you bitch. Oh, I hate when she does that. What a little biatch. Okay. For some reason, I don't believe he did this. Roberta says, I don't even know who he is. He's a YouTuber with, he's a lawyer. Dr. Melmo coming in hot. Hey, Dr. Melmo. Nobody owns a case, for heaven's sakes. Just report and find the killer. Hey, Pine. Good morning. But that whole process to get in is a bit ridiculous, right? So here we have the, that's just our little intro. So here we have the sketches that are not being allowed by the judge. So what is weird to me is that, oh, that's dirty. That's dirty to do that. Need some Z's. Y'all are thinking they don't have the right person. Wow. Okay, so there were these sketches that are not allowed in, even though for 7 years they were like, here's these suspects and here's who we want you to look for. And now they're not even allowed. The jury's not allowed to see them. Who thinks that's weird? Okay, so let's take a listen to Lawyer Lee. She's going to tell us about the Saturday session yesterday. Hang on, let's pull up her Let's pull up her map. These law tubers that are going to this trial are extremely helpful, and I really, really, really suggest that you follow them, because I don't think there's ever been a more important trial that we've basically been locked out of. So here is her map. Let's go like that. And she's going to tell us about some jury questions. Take a listen to this.
The creek there, having seen the clothes, he tried to cross the creek, but it was deep at that time. And said, the witness said, well, we only had real short boots, so that really wasn't an option. But a fireman came up and tried to contact people to say, hey, we found some clothes here. This is an important place. And nobody was responding. So the fireman headed across the creek right there. And then did get hold of dispatch and said, we found a shirt, we found black Nikes. And he did, at the time, the witness said, I didn't see anyone searching in that area across the creek from where I was. And so the witness is down below, based on topography, the Weber home, but in the area where the path, the drive is to the Weber home. And the witness is on the south side of the creek when the clothes are found. So there was, let's see. All right. There was approximately a 10 to 15 foot hill from Weber Drive, which I think, and it seems crazy that something that is just a pathway to somebody's house would be called, it looks like N625W, like it's named like a highway, but that's what it looked like to me. I think that's about where the path was to the Weber home. And there's a 10 to 15 foot hill going downward, a drop from Weber Drive, which I think is what you see there, the little white path that wiggles across toward the Weber home, there was that hill down to the creek. The fireman started contacting people to come from other sides, from the other side, since they were having trouble getting over there. He said, bring some people from the north toward us so that we can connect these places. We're on the south side. We see clothes. We don't see anybody. So look on the north side. Maybe they went into the water, he's thinking. So Brad, and at some point, Brad German and his wife and Kelsey showed up as the fireman was going over there, and he knew the Germans. Now, I was not clear if he was saying he was on the south side and so were the Germans. I wasn't completely clear about why they showed up at that exact point or where they were. He said he'd lived his whole life in Delphi and he'd never known about the trails. I thought that was fascinating. He'd never heard about this. And he heard then Pat Brown, who came from the other side, say,
Now, Pat Brown is the one that found the bodies.
And he sounded alarmed. He could not see Pat Brown or the bodies. That was a super important and hotly contested point. Could you see from where the clothes were across the bodies? That would make it more likely that the night before, when they were looking in the area around the Weber home, that maybe they could have spotted the bodies of Libby and Abby. And if they could have done that, then, or if somebody could have found those bodies and they weren't there, that would suggest the bodies left and then were brought back.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, according to the murder sheets, they think that the defense is going to go with this type of thing. That somebody met the girls there, walked them down to this service road, which was down the hill. I guess there was a service road down there. Put them in a vehicle, took them somewhere else, because Libby's phone had no activity, right? None until 4 a.m. At 4 a.m., they say that it started to come through all these texts at 4 a.m. So they're saying, well, they think that the defense is going to say they brought them back because the phone was underneath Libby's body, her phone. And they're going to try to say that the phone had to be turned on in order for those texts to come through. So I don't know how all that's going to go. But listen.
He said he could not see Pat Brown or the bodies. And the reason is really related to whether or not they were there that night before or whether they were brought back to the scene and it was staged, which is the defense belief. Now, this was, as far as I know, brand new information. I don't think this had been out before. I know I had not heard it. There was, from this witness, a 2019 statement that said he could see shoe prints, and we had to round robin this. It took all of us writing this together, but here is what we got.
Okay, so she's talking about everyone in the courtroom. A, it's really hard to hear. Hey, Beans. They can hardly hear. So all of these people together are putting their notes together to get us a whole picture, which I so appreciate.
We think he said this. He could see shoe prints and slide marks, and the ground and rocks had been disturbed near the access road going to the creek. But he said, but I want you to know that statement wasn't mine. It was by a friend of mine. But that's what he saw. Now, that was really interesting because it would suggest that if it was there the night before, law enforcement didn't see it. But these shoe prints and slide marks leading down toward the clothing would suggest that's the course, that's the path that Libby and Abby took as they were moved across the creek to the place where their bodies were found. And he said he could hear Pat Brown pretty well. Sound was traveling, but he couldn't see others coming to the area. He could hear them, but he never could see them, I guess because of the underbrush and the slope and the terrain and the way sort of the ground was. So we next heard from Pat Brown, probably the most moving testimony of the day. And he lives in Delphi, always has. He said he had known Mike Patty, the step-grandfather of Libby, since high school. His daughter is the same age as Kelsey, the older sister of Libby. So on the 13th, Becky Patty posted on Facebook that the girls were missing. She's the grandmother of Libby, and Libby lived with her. And Pat Brown called his buddy Mike, who was at that time at the police station, and said, hey, I'd be glad to come help. It was dark about that point, so Pat Brown called another buddy, Tommy Mears, of the family where the Mears entrance is that the girls went in, called Tommy to meet him there, and they went to the cemetery and stopped at Ron Logan's house, which I showed you on the map. And then he talked about the ravine that runs through the cemetery. So I'm just approximating where it is. It may go back into the cemetery itself. They could see lights down as they walked along the ravine and worked their way to the bridge. So they, as near as I can tell, I want the large one. Nope, I want the small one. Okay, so they went down through the cemetery, and I think they walked toward the left there, on the left side of the ditch ravine. I don't know exactly where it is. It's somewhere below that cemetery, maybe even inside the cemetery. So they walked, they were on the 13th, they were above it, but he suggested they were on the left side of this map, not the right side where the bodies were. So they were on the left side of the ravine. Now that's another important point because of course the defense is trying to place people in the spot where the bodies were, and they don't have a firm answer on that yet. There were people in and around and near, but so far they don't have anybody exactly in that spot. They don't have to have that, but I think they would like to have that just so they can say that the bodies weren't there. Otherwise, the people searching the night before would have found them. So I told you that. They walked to the west of the ravine along the river.
So Ron Logan is deceased now. Hold on, let me find, oops.
Down toward the clothing so that there can be people coming from two directions. And he ran about this point into Melissa Marchand, who was Libby's aunt, I think, or maybe she was the sister of Becky. I'm changing it and going with the sister of Becky, the grandmother of Libby. And he said and then he found the bodies. I'll go ahead and pull this out. He actually found the bodies. At this point, he was crying and extremely emotional. He said, I said we found them. And he started crying so much. I mean, he had to put his hand on a table nearby to steady himself. I mean, he was not able to stand for just a minute.
Damn.
He was so grief-stricken with what he remembered about finding the bodies. He said at first he thought they were mannequins, and he could not believe those were real girls. And that Melissa apparently saw this and ran back toward the cemetery, and he yelled out, "We found him." And there were 3 girls, they weren't identified, who came up about this time, and they didn't get particularly close. But what it sounded to me like, I'll put the close-up back in, it sounded to me like the 3 girls were coming from the side where the ditch ravine was. They may have been just below it, but they were coming from the side of the Monon High Bridge. But he said they didn't get really close. It was right about that point where the bodies had been found, and they didn't get anywhere near the bodies.
Okay. Hang on. Let me pull up this transcript because I want to find the jurors' questions.
The bodies of the girls were found in Delphi. Russ McQuaid, Fox 50.
The fireman was in the creek, and he walked down toward the creek and met the fireman there. And so, but the spot where the bodies were was flat-ish. They said it wasn't flat, but flatter than the area or point the defense has made, which is if Libby and Abby are in the middle of a crowded park, and there were clearly other people there, and there are 2 of them, and they're being abducted by one guy, 5'5", why do they not scream? Especially as one watches the other be killed. Wouldn't they scream?
This is what the defense is saying, by the way.
They yell, and then people would have heard. Why didn't people hear what was going on? And that plays into the defense theory that the girls weren't killed in the park, that they were either killed somewhere else or killed in the middle of the night when no one was around and the search had been called off. But
see, and that to me doesn't make sense. I do think multiple people use the Anthony Shots account too. And we are going to dig into Keegan Klein too, for sure, for sure. All right, this is about the bullet. Let's listen to about the bullet.
2 girls. So this is Pat Brown, and the bullet that was found between the 2 girls, it wasn't a bullet, it was an unspent casing. Law enforcement says they believe that traces back and connects and matches with a casing with a gun that they found when they searched Richard Allen's home. This was found between the 2 bodies. That's somewhat confusing to me because I thought the bodies were one on top of the other. And it was found in the ground, according to what we heard during jury selection, or may have been the mini opening statement from the defense. It was found a couple of inches down into the ground. So we haven't heard from the prosecution on that, and we haven't heard a witness say, I found the bullet. So we don't know a lot about exactly what happened there. But that's what I heard during, I guess it was mini opening probably.
So that's another weird thing, is this bullet, this unspent casing. So what they went on to do, I'm just going to sum it up, is that they were kind of alluding to the fact that it's the same type of caliber that law enforcement uses, a .40 caliber, and that there were a lot of law enforcement at the scene that it could have been theirs. And I think that's what they were trying to argue there. Let's move into, all right, let's do this. Let's switch gears and go back to the murder sheets. We have more from them. This is going to be
aired and alone in the woods.
Hang on.
Derek German arrives to pick up.
Okay, so this is going back in time. This is before the girls were found. So we're a little bit out of order here, but this is about Derek German, which is Libby's dad, going to pick them up. He was supposed to pick them up and Kelsey dropped them off. So now we have Derek German arriving to pick up the girls. And this is how it went down.
Derek German arrives to pick up his daughter, and Abby cannot find them. Police are ultimately called. And as we all know, after a search, the girls were found dead. And McClellan told the jurors they will see pictures of this. And he tells them.
Okay, so trigger warning. They're going to talk about, kind of how they were found. They're going to see pictures of this.
Libby was naked. She was covered in blood. Her throat was cut in several.
Wait, hold on. Let's go back.
They will see pictures of this. And he tells them Libby was naked. She was covered in blood. Her throat was cut in several places, and blood was everywhere, including on a tree. He says Abby had her own undershirt on, but Libby's sweatshirt and jeans, and she wore her own shoes, but no socks.
Okay, let's stop right there. Exactly, Potato. I thought they looked like two mannequins. Now they're saying, yeah, covered in blood, and that she was cut in several places. Listen again.
Ultimately called, and as we all know, after a search, the girls were found dead. And McClellan told the jurors they will see pictures of this. And he tells them Libby was naked. She was covered in blood. Her throat was cut in several places, and blood was everywhere, including on a tree. He says Abby had her own undershirt on, but Libby's sweatshirt and jeans, and she wore her own shoes, but no socks. Yes. And she had one of Libby's shoes and Libby's cell phone under her body. And also, of course, on the scene, there was a Winchester .40 caliber bullet. And the girls, other articles of the girls' clothing had been tossed into Deer Creek. Yes. McClellan continues the story. He says some witnesses came forward who were also on the trail and had taken some pictures. Some were, they ran into a man who was walking with purpose, and he did not seem friendly. And he told the jury that these people would tell the jury that the person they saw was Bridge Guy. Yeah, they're going to say it's the guy in the video where you see this Bridge Guy lumbering towards the girls. Betsy Blair.
All right, so before we get into the Betsy Blair, which is another witness, let's go over here and watch the Bridge Guy video that they're talking about. This came out 7 years ago, or 5 years ago, sorry. April 22nd, 2019. And this is the infamous, we've all seen it. Hold on. Did you guys see that? And then they released this. Hold on. They released this younger sketch later. So the first one with the cap that kind of looks like Richard Allen, they disregarded that one and replaced it with this one. Which, if this person was a little heavier, it kind of resembles Keegan Klein. But I'm going to show you, too, that there were other sketches that the public didn't see. But let's continue. Let's watch Bridge Guy one more time.
Guys. Downhill. Guys. Downhill.
So they say that Richard Allen had the same Carhartt jacket and all of that stuff. Michael, I don't know. That's what they're saying, that it cycled through RA's glove or gun. All right, so let's continue with the murder sheets.
Saw a bridge guy on the bridge. Sarah Carball saw a muddy, bloody man walking on the road and apparently says that he looked like he had, quote, just slaughtered a pig.
Okay, so one of the witnesses saw a muddy, bloody man, which we knew that from the documents we've seen. But it kind of, if they saw somebody who looked like they just slaughtered a pig, wouldn't you be alarmed? Would you just be on the trail like, oh, I'm going for a walk, and then you see a man covered in blood and mud? I mean, what would you do in that situation? Would you think that's effing weird? I mean, I don't know if you'd call the police, but if you see somebody and it's like, oh, it looks like they just slaughtered a pig, and you're out on a walking trail. Good morning, Cricket. Who's KK? Keegan Klein? Yeah, we're going to go over Keegan Klein. There's a whole deep dive into his ass. Keegan Klein's house was raided within 2 weeks of these murders, maybe even less. It could have been 1 week. I don't know without going back and looking for sure, but his home was raided and he was charged with the child pornography. And Keegan Klein was the creator and the owner of the Anthony shots, and he admitted to using it. But the weird thing is that police told Keegan, I read one of the transcripts from one of his interviews, and the police told him that there were 2 people logging in and logging out and using Anthony shots from Keegan's home. They said that the messages had to have been written by 2 different people because of the, just the way they were written and stuff. Yeah, I think I've done like a side-by-side of these and stuff, but we'll get into that. Ron, Logan, and Keegan were in the same church. Really? But they say that his dad wasn't involved. So could it have been someone that he had over? Because remember, Keegan also got in trouble for another girl in Indiana. He was actually grooming on her, having her make videos of her doing certain things to herself, and him and others behind him were watching. So he had like friends there too. Yeah, I agree, Melmo. I think it's a good lesson to learn. She said, listen, especially women, if I ever see anything that doesn't look safe or right, always call police. It's better to be safe than sorry. Don't ever fear reporting things to police. I agree. I mean, if you see someone, if you're out on a walking trail and you're not supposed to see someone covered in blood, then maybe you should report that so that the cops can look into that. It's crazy. I know, Pearl. It is. It's weird. You guys are thinking that the dad was involved also. It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me. I just wonder, if they're going to be able to prove their case. Okay, let's get back to the murder sheets. This is about them seeing, the witnesses seeing Bridge Guy
walking on the road and apparently says that he looked like he had, quote, just slaughtered a pig. McClellan then confirmed something we've heard a long time.
And something that we reported.
We have reported this. Tell them about Kathy Shanks.
So it's Kathy Shank, I believe. And so McClellan said that Department of Natural Resources Officer Dan Doolin, we already know this, interviewed Richard Allen in February 2017, shortly after the murders, and that this tip was, he didn't mention this part, but I mean, obviously, because it's a mistake, but that tip was ultimately misfiled. Our understanding from filings is that it was.
Okay, so this is about them overlooking their interview with Richard Allen. Okay. Elvis is associated with the Odinism defense. That's her 2019 statement. Her 2017 didn't mention blood. Really? Well, why? This is what I want to know. And if anybody knows this, I want to know why the police kicked out the FBI from this case and did not analyze the phones, because that's what I'm understanding. And that is something that's really concerning. Does anyone know why the FBI was asked not to be involved by the police? Because I've heard that that was a fact. All right, let's continue with the witnesses. If you guys know that, let me know in the chat.
He was classified as Richard Whiteman of Allen Drive, which is not his.
This is what he was in there. Instead of Richard Allen. Listen to this.
That tip was ultimately misfiled. Our understanding from filings is that he was classified as Richard Whiteman of Allen Drive, which is not his name, obviously. It was a mix-up.
How could they do that? Okay, a mix-up? Richard Whiteman of Allen Drive? Come on. But Melmo, I have to correct you on the whole police thing, covering up. Look at Rex Hewerman. Look at all the cops that were involved in picking up sex workers and covered it up and didn't investigate these deaths and these missing people. It was because the cops were involved in it. I'm sorry, I'm outside. If you guys hear any weird sounds, I'm outside this morning.
And that we learned, though, now how this was uncovered.
So Kathy Shank.
Kathy, I think it's just Shank.
Kathy Shank.
Kathy Shank was going through the, I guess, records of the case. As happens, you kind of keep going through, maybe back to the beginning or in other different, opening different boxes, so to speak, or whatever, to kind of look over, is there anything we missed with this unsolved case? And she seemingly found this tip.
This tip that says there was this man who says he was there from 1:30 to 3:30 and that he saw 3 girls. She calls this to the attention of Tony Liggett, and Tony Liggett says, wait a minute, there were 3 girls who said they saw Bridge Guy. This could be something big. And so Richard Allen is interviewed, and he said he did see the 3 girls. He admitted he owned a gun, and it ended up being the gun that the bullet that was recovered was cycled through, and he indicated
the Carhartt jacket,
that he owned the same jacket, and he had no explanation for any of this, and so he was arrested.
And in terms of McClellan indicated to the jury this could have all ended here, and that would be the case, but instead, over the course of his incarceration, he's spoken at length and in detail about the murders, including, quote, how he did it, why he did it, and these. I'm trying to read my own handwriting.
And that he had details that only the killer would know.
Yep.
And that he made these confessions and these incriminating statements not to people who were interrogating him under bright lights, but to family members he loves.
So,
okay. So they're saying Richard Allen confessed to, his family members, et cetera, et cetera. But let's go back to the court clerks. Let's go back to the court clerks. The court clerks enter, or whoever, the cop, whoever did the interview, whatever it was, Richard Whiteman of Allen Drive. So my question is, did Richard Allen give them that information if it was a park officer taking witness statements, if that's true, Momo. I don't know if that's true. Thank you, Snazzy. I work a cold case with a podcaster in North Carolina. I can say with 100% that cops cover shit to keep themselves or loved ones covered. It happens. Yeah, Richard Whiteman. I think he lived on Whiteman Drive. Hey, Vestiges. I'm an hour away from Delphi. I was going to go back when this happened, but my head was caught up in Summer Wells. Thank you for your support, Snazzy. It was definitely a cop that interviewed Alan. I want to say his name was Dan Doolin. Huh. The thin blue line. It looks like Richard Allen and Keegan Klein. That's what I'm thinking. But, I mean, what are the odds that this... I mean, you have two unalived young girls, and you're going to write someone... Okay, how many people could have possibly been at that trail that day? Probably not too many people, right? So they probably have less than, 10 witnesses who were there? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. If they have like less than 10 witnesses who were there, wouldn't you zero in on the men first off that you knew were there? Like, something just seems hokey to me because I'm not an investigator. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any of these credentials. I'm just an armchair detective, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm going, why wouldn't they zero in, especially on the men who were there that day, being that you have two teenage girls that are unalived? You would think that it would go beyond an initial interview of him saying, oh, yeah, I was there. And yeah, I saw 3 girls, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at KK's features in that sketch, you have to remember sketches are not exact. They're not exact. But if you line up Keegan Klein's features with that younger sketch, you'll see that there is a resemblance. It does, Robin. It's like, it's such a rookie move to write down a guy who was there, right? A guy who was there. You know for a fact he was there. He's been interviewed. And you write down Richard Whiteman, and he lives on Allen Avenue. You're never going to find this guy again. Sunshine, I'm telling you, some of the features match. And I'm not just making it up. There is. And Keegan Klein was not always as fat as he is in prison. He was fat, but he wasn't fat as he is now.
La, la, la,
Okay.
la, la. You don't hold account.
And plus, we can't discount KK's involvement because we know that he was in control of Anthony's shots. So my question is, did Keegan Klein set up a meeting via Anthony's shots and then give the login to Richard Allen? Is that how that happened? Sorry about the airplane. The sketch on the left is from the video. I mean, there's a reason that Libby recorded Bridge Guy, right? There's a reason for that. Okay, let me show you guys some pictures. Let's see. Keegan Klein. Hold on, we got some interviews with him too. But check this out. Okay, let me share this screen. Can you guys see it or no? Now you can. Okay. This isn't going to be the best way to do it. But here is Keegan and his dad. Let's see if I can find a better picture. Here we go. This is Keegan. See, he wasn't as fat, y'all. I'm telling you. He wasn't as fat then. See? Now he's like Grimace. Report shows that a civilian FBI person took the report of Richard Allen, mislabeled the report. I don't think it was the FBI. Yeah, I've done that. Need some Z's. I've got a whole deep dive on that. When that whole Odinism thing came out, we deep dived it. But he wasn't as huge as he is now. But isn't that crazy? And the cops said that there were 2 people logging into Anthony's shots from their home. And they say it wasn't the dad. There they are again. See, his face is chubbier there. Hey, Shauna. I heard it was like a park ranger, not the FBI, because I don't think the FBI was involved. I feel like I heard that they did not involve the FBI. What is this? Oh, and there's the whole thing of, okay, so Keegan Klein lives in Peru, Indiana. And there's the whole auto zone in Peru. See all these interviews? I don't know what that's all about. People that were there, I reckon. But now take a look at the, hey, wait, let's look at this. Let's go back. According to court records, Keegan Klein admitted to creating the fake online Anthony Shots profile to meet underage girls and receive explicit photos. The man connected to the Delphi murders investigation through a fake online profile had his child porn trial confirmed for January. This is back in 2022. During a 4-minute hearing Thursday, Klein appeared on video from the Miami County Jail with his attorney. Neither defense or prosecution had any matters to bring before the court. Klein's attorney said he continues to review discovery. According to court records, Keegan Klein admitted to creating the fake online Anthony Shots profile to meet underage girls and receive explicit photos. Klein faces 30 child porn and exploitation charges. He has never been charged in the murders of Libby and Abby. Despite that, investigators say the person behind that online profile was one of the last to communicate with German before she and Williams were found dead on February 14th, 2017. Klein has been held at the Miami County Jail for more than 2 years, awaiting a jury trial for the 30 charges. It's not clear if any of those charges involve communication with German. He ended up taking a plea deal. So the 30 child porn and exploitation charges stem from a search of Klein's Peru, Indiana home on February 25th, just 11 days after the bodies of Libby and Abby were discovered. The FBI, Indiana State Police, and Peru Police Department took part in serving the search warrant, and the investigation was focused on Klein allegedly soliciting underage girls. According to a probable cause affidavit out of Miami County, Klein created the Anthony Shots account approximately 6 months prior to when investigators interviewed him in February of 2017. I mean, they were on him like white on rice. 11 days after the murders, and then we have 7 years of nothing? Like, what in the pure hell? He allegedly said he created the account to contact both girls he knew and girls he did not. Court documents show Klein saying he would talk to girls even if they were under the age of 16, and that he found them on Instagram and then told them to message him on Snapchat. Klein allegedly claimed to have received pictures from all the girls he chatted with and had saved them. According to court documents, while investigators talked to Klein shortly after he returned from Vegas, investigators said he told them he was fucked and he should have left. Klein said he planned to leave the area that day after his dad fell asleep. In that probable cause affidavit, Klein said he received several sexual photos and videos of the girls he was messaging. Investigators seized 6 devices from Klein, including smartphones, a tablet, and an iPod Touch. The iPod Touch was last used in May of 2015 and contained sexually explicit images of children. Locations for some of the images came back to Hammond or Royal Center, Indiana. One iPhone, last used in May of 15, contained sexual images of girls around the age of 14. The geolocation on the images came back to cities in Indiana, including Bunker Hill, Galveston, Indianapolis, Kokomo, Monterey, and Royal Center. A Samsung Galaxy phone, last used in 2015, contained sexually explicit images of children between 12 and 17. Another iPhone investigators found contained sexual images of children between 12 and 17. Adults involved in sexual acts with children between the ages of 3 and 11, and images of drugs and Klein with a black handgun. That phone was last used November of 2016. The tablet was last used in March of 2016 and showed conversations on Facebook Messenger and the user suggesting the conversations be moved to Kik or Snapchat. Another Samsung Galaxy phone recovered was factory reset on the 23rd of February, 9 days after the Delphi murders. A factory reset essentially wipes all the data from the device. So that's what Stephen Stearns did. Investigators were able to get information on the device after the reset. It included discussions about meeting people in Las Vegas and prostitution. On February 27th, 2017, Klein contacted police claiming he had located his iPhone 5. Investigators said they found images of females posing nude, but investigators could not determine their ages. Investigators also found much of the data from Facebook, Instagram, Meet Me, Snapchat, and Twitter had been deleted. A review of the phone found that hours after police released him, the day they searched his phone or his home, February 25th, he had uninstalled and deleted Snapchat and Instagram. The following day, Meet Me was uninstalled and deleted. The browser search history had also been deleted the morning of February 27th, before the phone was turned in to authorities. And then the Keegan Klein's court-appointed attorney said, my client had nothing to do with the unexpected, untimely, and unfortunate passing of the girls in Delphi. On December 6, 2021, Indiana State Police investigating the Delphi murders asked for help from anyone who had contact with the Anthony Shots profile. Detectives said the account with the username Anthony Shots was used on Snapchat and Instagram, among other social media platforms, in 2016 and 17. State police say the person behind the account used photos of a male model and portrayed himself as being extremely wealthy and owning numerous sports cars. Investigators say the person used the profile to communicate with underage girls to solicit nude images and want to know if anyone got requests to get their address or to try to meet with them. So this is who we believe the girls thought they were meeting with that day, was this Anthony Schatz. Did they, Kristen, they lost the data? Hey, One-Eyed Flo. I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at chat, but I'm wondering, what do you guys think? I mean, this is huge. All of this information is so important, right? All of it. Police say they've identified the male model that was used in the photos on the account and say the man is not a person of interest. Detectives ask anyone who communicated with Anthony Schatz's account or attempted to meet, to reach out to police through the tip line. Investigators are looking for as much information as those who communicate with the profile can provide. And then this just gives background on the case. But what do you guys think of that with Keegan? Like, this all should connect, right? Because how did Richard... Okay, so this is the fucked up thing. So they expect us to believe that these two girls were speaking with Anthony Schatz. Now, I know from previous court docs that Abby and Libby were up late the night before when they had their sleepover. They were up late and they were sending videos. Thanks, One-Eyed Flo. So they were sending videos to Anthony Schatz up until like 1 in the morning or something like that. And if that's the case, the next day they want to go meet at the Monon High Bridge. And then they have Libby communicating with Anthony Schatz. So if we have RA as the killer, how did RA get up in the Anthony Schatz account? Or did he? You know what I'm saying? Like, did Keegan Klein set it up and then pass on said account to log into for the meetup? Like, how did that all work? Because somehow it's connected. They say they don't know each other, but how did this go down? How is it coincidence? There was something about a gas station. Yes. The auto parts store and the gas station. But how can it not be connected? And they haven't connected it. But it seems like a total coincidence. Like, they're up late sending videos and stuff to Anthony Schatz, and then Richard Allen just knows they're there. Yeah, he did. Keegan did admit to selling and swapping accounts. So did Keegan set up the meeting and then afterwards realize that these girls were... Thank you for subscribing, Tim. I just can't shake the fact that they had to have had some kind of connection. Okay, so speaking of that, let's get into this next clip from the murder sheets. Wait, let's finish this one, see what it is.
What really jumped out to me here was the quote, killer details only the killer would know.
Yes.
Because...
Yeah, okay, so the prosecution is saying that Richard Allen knows details that only the killer would know. Listen to this part again.
And that he had details that only the killer would know.
Yep.
And that he made these confessions and these incriminating statements not to people who were interrogating him under bright lights, but to family members he loves.
So the thing that really jumped out to me here was the quote, details only the killer would know.
Yes.
Because whatever sort of mental health argument could be made, which I am frankly sympathetic to with with the, with what we know about things like solitary confinement, right? Like we know that this is very harmful to human beings, right?
Okay. So Richard Allen allegedly knows things only the killer would know. I found that to be interesting. If Richard Allen, no, I don't think he did, bad girl. Okay, so that's the thing. Bad girl, you bring up a really good point. So allegedly, after the murders, there was communication between two people. And I've never gotten the deets on this because it was in Keegan Klein's transcripts that there was a conversation where Anthony Schatz asked somebody else, and I don't know who the user or anything like that was, but Anthony Schatz asked someone else about the meeting. And Anthony Schatz was told in a reply, they didn't show up. Okay. When Keegan was told the girls didn't show up, he knew that was a lie, he said. And this was in some interview with him. And I'm going to have to find it because we'll go into this. But when he found out those girls were missing, that was when he was like, oh, fuck, basically. What R.A. admitted, he said he shot him in the back, but that's not how they were unalived. That's terrifying. That is terrifying. Yes, I'll find it, Robin. It did. It happened. There was communications, and it had to do with Keegan's transcripts. Okay, so take a listen to this.
Actually, there's several different things that could be happening here. Then, frankly, again, it's another bounce check.
Okay, listen right here.
Baldwin said that they say that Richard Allen parked at the CPS lot, and they even say that he drove there from a different way that he usually took. And I don't know about you. Where did your mind go? I know where my mind.
So they said that Richard Allen took a different way. I agree with you, Sunshine. He took a different way to get to the bridge than like the most obvious route from his home. Now listen.
When he said that,
my mind went to if you plan to do a crime, you might do some different things and try to conceal your vehicle. And in the probable cause affidavit, I remember it was specifically mentioned that the car of the alleged perpetrator was parked in such a way to sort of disguise its license plate and things like that and be a bit hidden.
Well, my mind went to the fact that maybe he was driving there potentially from a different route because he was starting from a different place. Maybe he wasn't driving from home. Michael Osbrook, another person who works closely with the defense team, he has said on his Twitter feed that day earlier, Richard Allen was not at home, but that he was visiting his mother in Peru, Indiana.
Oh, shit.
Back to Peru.
See? So somebody, hold on.
In Peru, Indiana.
Back to Peru.
Somebody on the defense team said that Richard Allen was in Peru visiting his mom earlier that morning. Who lives in Peru? Keegan Klein. Coincidence? I don't think so. But why don't they have Richard Allen's phone geofenced, or do they? Do they have all of his locations geofenced so that we can follow him where he went that day? Someone's hair in her hand. It's a female hair. We found out that's a female's hair. And get this. Now they're testing it. Yeah, I mean, this is weird. Right. Need some Z's. Just walking like you just killed a pig. Hey, what's up?
Different place. Maybe he wasn't driving from home. Michael Osbrook, another person who works closely with the defense team, he has said on his Twitter feed that day earlier, Richard Allen was not at home, but that he was visiting his mother in Peru, Indiana.
Back to Peru.
Baldwin says that the state will say.
So I thought that was interesting that he could have been in Peru that day. Tim Prater, if anything in this case is fact, it's that the police screwed this investigation up badly. Good morning, Sal. His mother lives down the street from Keegan, but they probably met up as well. Exactly. Why wouldn't that test? Right? Why wouldn't that hair have been tested before? That's a good question. That is a great question, actually. It was apparently wrapped around her finger. Oh, look at Keegan Klein. Oh, shit. Look at, he's filed an appeal. He made it a plea deal, and it looks like June 27th of this year. He's asking for a review. On August, let's read through this. On August 19th, 2020, the state charged Klein with multiple felonies, and the state later amended the information, so they took away some of the charges and charged him with 1 count of level 5 felony child solicitation, 8 counts of level 5 felony child exploitations, 4 counts of level 5 felony possession of child P, 7 counts of level 6 felony possession of child P, 2 counts of level 6 felony synthetic identity deception, and 3 counts of level 6 felony obstruction of justice. On March 30th of 2023, Klein pleaded guilty as charged without a plea agreement. I thought he did. They had a plea hearing. He pled guilty without an agreement. During the plea hearing, the trial court took judicial notice of the probable cause affidavit, which is 32 pages long. The facts of Klein's offenses are more than abhorrent, and given the narrow scope of Klein's appeal, we need not detail them here. In short, among other things, Klein solicited sexually explicit videos from young girls when he knew their ages. He manipulated the girls and stalked them. He sought very young girls of specific age ranges. He masturbated to the videos he obtained. Gross. An investigation uncovered thousands of messages between Klein and young girls. Ugh. Okay, let's go. Klein argues that his sentence is manifestly unreasonable. He got 40 years, by the way. I wonder if Richard Allen is mentioned in this. This is just sick. How could you even ask for an appeal when you've done something so deplorable? Klein does not dispute that the images supporting these charges were created on 5 separate dates. His sole argument on appeal is that his possession of those images on the same date means that his offenses constitute an episode of criminal conduct under statute. But the evidence shows that the offenses were neither simultaneous nor contemporaneous. Accordingly, the trial court did not err when it found counts 10 through 20 were comprised of 5 episodes of criminal conduct, and we affirm Klein's sentence. I don't know. I just found that looking around. Appeal court upholds Keegan Klein's 43-year sentence. River search near home of man police say posed as teen online. This is from 2022, September 1st. Delphi, Indiana, there may be a potential break in the unsolved murders of 2 teenage girls. In Delphi, Indiana. Look at the host of the true crime podcast, The Murder Sheet, took photographs of investigators scouring the Wabash River near Peru, about 40 miles from where Abby and Libby were found dead 5 years ago. We're hearing from sources that this is connected, said the host of The Murder Sheet. Indiana State Police would only confirm that they have a dive team in the area, but the podcaster said it's located just a few miles from the family home of 28-year-old Keegan Klein, who was arrested 2 years ago and charged with child P and child exploitation. 28-year-old Keegan Klein admitted to using the handle Anthony Shots to communicate with minors. Klein has denied any involvement in the murders. A court document obtained by ABC News shows that Klein was temporarily moved from the custody of his local authorities to the hands of Indiana State Police, the lead investigators in the murders of Abby and Libby. Investigators would not say what they were looking for in that riverbed or how it could possibly be connected to the murder case. There's so many unanswered questions with this guy. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like I'm being harassed completely.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all. And I've gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
In December, Delphi investigators announced that catfish account Anthony Shots was active on Instagram and Snapchat in 2016 and 2017, and they asked for anyone who interacted with that profile to come forward. But more than a year ago, then 26-year-old Keegan Klein admitted to investigators that he was behind the fake profile.
Uh-oh. My ass is buffering. Can you guys still hear me? Can you still hear me? Hopefully you guys can still hear me.
File, and that he used it to ask young girls for nude pictures and videos. Tell me about Anthony Shots. Why did you create that profile?
I don't really know. I was just lonely, you know what I mean?
Lonely?
Just talking to people. I don't know why I did it, really.
Lonely? So you talk to 12 and 14-year-olds, you sick.
And were you ever trying to meet these girls in real life that you were talking to?
No, never.
Just 11 days after the murders of Abby and Libby, task force investigators served a search warrant on the home.
Okay, so here is actually the article. The name of a man who lives at the Peru home on Canal Street. Something, after conducting the search, FBI don't believe, we in no way believe he is connected to the murders of those 2 girls. What?
Home that Keegan shared with his dad. At the time, the FBI told the Lafayette Journal and Courier they found nothing to indicate a connection to the Delphi case. Keegan's electronics were confiscated then, but he wasn't arrested until 3 years later. He's now facing 30 counts of...
It took them 3 years to arrest Keegan Klein. Dude, what are the odds that they were led to his home on February 25th, 11 days after these girls were brutally murdered? And he was the last one to speak with them. How? I don't, Tonka. I don't think her sister's involved. I don't. I just don't. I think this is just way too coincidental.
Of child pornography and child solicitation in Miami County, Indiana, unrelated to the Delphi murders. He says, though, that Indiana State Police told him Anthony Shots had been communicating with Libby before her murder. So why do you think investigators are putting so much focus on you right now?
I have not a clue. Because I think it's because they said I was the last person to talk to her, is what they've told me.
And then she shows up at the bridge and they're abducted and later found dead.
Right.
So I guess another question that I would have, he is so gross, by the way. Another question I would have is how many people was Libby communicating with? Was there like a bunch of guys, you know, that she just kind of messaged with on Instagram or Snapchat? Or was this the main person, Anthony Schatz? And how long was she talking to Anthony Schatz? Was it just a couple days? Was it a couple weeks? Was it a couple months? Because we know Anthony Schatz's account existed for 6 months. I don't know much about Kelsey's changing stories. I'd be interested to know more about that. Yeah, I remember that whole thing with Elvis and the Odinism. I do.
And that was not you?
No, 100% not.
Keegan says he has no memory or knowledge of communicating with Libby, and investigators haven't confirmed if what he says is true.
So that helps a lot, right? Helps a hell of a lot. Not. But here's an 18-minute clip from Court TV. And we're going to watch this. This is let's just listen to the whole thing and we'll break it down. But this is Keegan Klein speaking to the Murder Sheet podcast from behind bars.
Appeared. The documents detail an interview police had with Allen back in 2017, where he told investigators he was on the trail from 1:30 to 3:30 that day. Surveillance video shows a car matching Allen's in the area.
Listen, I don't even know Rick Snay, so no one's anybody's groupie here. We're all just covering this case and wanting to know what's going on. There's no groupies in this chat.
At the time of the crime, court documents state the video Libby took on her phone shows Abby walking on the Monon High Bridge when a man wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. They go on to say one of the...
Can we just say too, I would never let my kids fuck around on this bridge. That thing is not safe.
Court documents state the video Libby took on her phone shows Abby walking on the Monon High Bridge when a man wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. They go on to say one of the girls mentions gun before being told guys down the hill. That audio was later released to help with the investigation. Documents say the video ends shortly after the girls start to walk down the hill. Allen was interviewed a second time where he told investigators he was on the trail that day wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with the hood. Documents say during a search at Allen's home, police found clothing that matches what was worn by the alleged killer. They also found a gun that belonged to Allen. Analysis on that gun found the bullet found near the girls' bodies had been inside Allen's gun. Allen told police he never let anyone borrow it. What we still don't know is how the two teens died.
This has been one of...
Well, now we do, right? We know it wasn't a gun. But if you noticed in that stuff that I read about Keegan, he also had a handgun. I don't know anything about bullets or anything like that, but could Keegan's handgun have held a .40 caliber bullet? I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me.
the biggest mysteries in the country since 2017. Who killed Abigail Williams and Liberty German? Prosecutors say it was a local CVS employee, Richard Allen, that he's responsible for killing two teens. He was arrested last year and is expected to stand trial for those murders. But there's another man, Keegan Klein. He's long been linked to this case, and though he's never been charged, investigators say that Klein used a phony social media account under the name Anthony Schatz, and he used that to communicate with underage girls online. And that account is also known to have been communicating with Liberty German just before the murders occurred. And while Keegan Klein has never been charged, I want to emphasize that in connection with the Delphi murders, he has been
Grimace.
charged with more than 24 crimes, including child exploitation and possession of child pornography. Now, Klein was expected to be sentenced last week because he pleaded guilty to those child pornography charges, but he withdrew that. And our friends Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee from the Murder Sheet podcast, they had a chance to speak with him from behind bars there in Indiana. And before we get into the specifics of Klein's case, here's some of what he told them about the Delphi murders.
Do you feel you have information to speak with authorities on that case?
I've already tried. They don't want to hear anything I have to say. So, and I've met with the prosecutor there, and I mean, yeah.
You've met with Nick McClelland?
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about what he was like or what that experience was like?
I mean, he's a real nice guy. I mean, he was really super nice.
And this is big. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can't really get into any more details, you know what I mean? But
that's understandable.
I mean, he was a real nice guy, and yeah, I met with everyone.
Do you have a sense about why they don't want to hear it? This is just kind of a broad, big picture question.
They just said they don't believe me.
Okay.
Or they can't corroborate what I said, pretty much.
I'm just curious, did you know Richard Allen?
No.
Okay.
No. People said that he worked in Peru or lived in Peru around whatever year. I can't remember, but someone on some podcast was saying, oh, well, he lived right down the road from him in 2004. It's like, dude, I was 9 or 10 years old. Why would I know a grown man, you know? Things like that.
Okay, so he says, I lived down the road from him, but I was like 10. How would I know this grown man when I was 10 years old? Well, you have a father, Keegan. You have a father.
I mean, I guess, is there anything you wanted to state for the record, or anything about the coverage, or that you would want the public to know?
When I get to prison, I definitely will send you a letter because I want to talk about some of the Delphi stuff. But right now, I don't think that would be smart to do.
Okay.
After I'm sentenced, you know what I mean? Yeah, I would like to say a few things for sure about that.
All right, we do have our two special guests who are soon going to be joining us tonight from Indianapolis, but I want to play a little bit more sound from the Murder Sheet podcast, that interview with Keegan Klein, where he discusses something close to explaining why he is not going to go forward with the sentencing, why he may want to withdraw things and not go forward with that guilty plea. I do want to offer the information that we have not been able to independently verify some of the claims that he makes against a relative, but take a listen to what he has to say about why he changed up lawyers right at the 11th hour.
That's why I brought up to Andrew on Wednesday. That's why the court went, an hour or so later than what it should have started, because I was like, Andrew, what is going on? How do I not see these after 3 years of being here? How do I not get my paperwork? And he called, and I heard his secretary say, well, we don't know 100% that we sell everything to him. And I just looked at him like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I know you're a public defender. I'm not paying you, but, like, you have an obligation as a lawyer to get me all my stuff. If I'm about to take a 20-year sentence, I want to see every paperwork, everything that's ever been said, I don't know the law, so I just listen to everything my lawyer tells me. So when I don't see any of this paperwork, it's like, are you kidding me, dude? I talked about going to trial the whole time over it. And then he was like, well, they're not going to give you a deal. So, and then Wednesday he goes, well, maybe we should have taken that 10-year plea. I'm like, dude, you've never told me about a plea ever until right now. I don't know. I don't know. It's really bad on his side as a lawyer. I don't know what you would call it, legal term, but yeah, it's just crazy.
Let's bring in our special guests from the Murder Sheet podcast. Thank you both for being on with us, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. You're my definition of a power couple, journalist, lawyer, together, following this case so closely. You all are the resident experts on it. Can you talk to me about first how you were able to get this kind of an interview with a man who's still in the midst of his litigation?
The process got started actually a couple of weeks ago. We had an interview on the show with Keegan Klein's former girlfriend. He heard about that and he reached out to us via text and indicated he wanted to know what she had to say. And in the past, we had asked him to do an interview with us, and he said he'd only do it if we would pay him. And we didn't want to pay him. And we said, we'd be happy to talk to you about what your former girlfriend said, but we're not going to pay you. And if you want to come on the podcast, we can have a conversation about everything. And to our surprise, honestly, he agreed.
I want to know why Keegan Klein is wearing a UAW t-shirt. I mean, I know people can have all kinds of t-shirts, but did his dad work for the UAW? Yeah. Hey, Tammy. Good to see you. Yeah, let's leave politics out of this. Please. It's already messed up enough.
I know from the interview that is posted on the podcast that those who are watching, those who are listening, that he would only do it if you didn't get into too many questions about Richard Allen and the Delphi murders. But it seemed that he was forthcoming with some things on his own. What did you learn anything new from what he had to say about the Delphi murders?
It's a great question. I think it was interesting getting him on the record, noting no Richard Allen at all. We're sort of getting his side of that at this point, and sort of getting some of that on the record is helpful for us because, you know, we can say that here's his line in the sand. He's saying he's not involved. He's saying he doesn't know this person. And I think that's helpful because there's so many rumors, right, that spread online about links between people. And so when you're asking one of the two people sort of, you know, do you actually know this person? And they're saying blankly no, then I think that's, you know, maybe furthers all of our understanding.
And I also framed a conversation at some point with prosecutor Nick McClelland. And I think it's worth stressing to the viewers that Nick McClelland is the prosecutor in the Delphi murders case. He is not the prosecutor in the child sexual abuse materials cases. So presumably the topic of that conversation could only be matters related to the Delphi murders.
I wanted to ask you that question. It's a great segue because you've been inside of the courtroom for all of the hearings when it
Oh, man. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I got booted. Stream. His dad was a plant employee in Kokomo. Oh, hello. Can you guys hear me? Hold on. Okay, I am back. Can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that. I got booted. I done got booted. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, my computer, when I'm on this Talk Studio for a while, it freezes up on me, and I don't know why it does that. But listen to this. I'm just going to read this article because my computer's effing up. Okay, so listen to this. Defense, this is 1 week ago. Defense plans, this is the defense now, Richard Allen's defense. Shauna, no, not booted for playing those two, just my computer. Hopefully I'm clear now. Let me know. Put a 1 in chat if I'm clear. You think the young sketch looks like Kathy Allen? What are you talking about? I don't know his middle name. Kathy and Richard went to swingers clubs. Where's your proof of that? Okay, so here we go. Defense plans to call Keegan Klein as a witness in Delphi murder trial. The man behind an online persona that preyed on underage girls and contacted Libby German the night before her death will take the stand during the Delphi murders trial. Before Richard Allen was arrested and charged with the deaths of Abby and Libby in 2022, convicted child predator Keegan Klein was thrust into the Delphi murder spotlight after police learned the Peru man was behind a social media account called Anthony Shots. Under this false online persona, Klein contacted numerous underage girls and manipulated them into sending sexually explicit images and videos. Klein ended up being sentenced to 43 years after pleading guilty to 25 felony counts. While Klein was never officially named a suspect, investigators did uncover that German interacted with Anthony Shots' account shortly before she was killed. Klein has been at the center of numerous online conspiracies surrounding the high-profile murder case and is now set to appear in court during the trial as Allen's defense team named Klein as a witness whom they intend to call to the stand. Klein is but one of several current inmates the defense will call to testify during the trial. So Mr. Klein is going to be testifying. His middle name is Anthony. Oh, Lord have mercy. Keegan Anthony Klein. Those girls wouldn't have been there, though, if it not have been for Keegan Klein, says Loaded Hot. Do you guys believe that? I don't think any of these people are necessarily believable, but his connection is just bizarre. KK was cleared by LE and the Internet Task Force 2 weeks after. Right, but he was the last one to communicate with Libby. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Oh, what did someone say? What if that hair ends up being Kathy's? Lord have mercy. Could you imagine? So they took DNA from the Germans or from the Williams, I guess, right? To test that hair. Bad Girl says that KK is the common link. Does he have an alibi? I don't know, but why would the defense want to call him? It's like the prosecution doesn't want to touch him when it comes to this case, but the defense is going to bring him in. That's crazy to me. That is crazy town. But let's see how you guys feel. Do you guys feel like Richard Allen is the sole perpetrator and they have the right guy? Put a 1. Put a 2 if you think that there's more to this, they don't have the right guy, or there were others involved. 1, you think they've got it all down pat and there was no connections with anybody else. 2, you think there's more. Right. Didn't test the hair for 7 years. Make it make sense. I think that, wait, where is that comment? Lots of twos. KK's wait. I think the girls thought they were going to meet Anthony Schatz there, which was key. And Klein and Keegan Klein told Richard Allen. Right. So we have Richard Allen in the town where this dude lives right before the murders. This dude is the last one to speak with Libby. I don't know, man. And what are the odds too that Richard Allen is just gonna out of the blue, 40 some years old, just all of a sudden do this? That's just not typically the way things go. They usually have a history. And then we also have the story of Richard Allen giving the Germans their pictures for free that they had developed for like a memorial or something. I just think that, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to prove a case against Richard Allen. This is too convoluted, in my opinion. We're only into day 2, though. We're only into day 2, and we'll see how many of the lawyers actually last going through this, because it seems like Judge Gall is making it as miserable as possible. These people don't even want to eat or drink during the day for the trial, because if they have to get up and go to the bathroom, they lose their seat. Bridge guy looks taller. I think Allen's 5'5". The judge, it's horrible. And make it make sense with that damn sketch. Don't read too much into that because a lot of places give free pictures. It's just weird. The interactions, the coincidences that are not being put together in this, you know. It'll definitely be interesting to see what the defense asks Keegan, and if they're going to have like the cross-examination from the prosecution on KK. I don't know, man. It's weird. And then Libby pulls out her phone and starts recording him. They definitely were not expecting him. They were expecting this good-looking Anthony Schatz. And I'd love to see, did they get their messages? Did they recover messages between Libby and Anthony? They had to have, right? To know that he was the last to communicate with her. So what did they say? Banta, do you have proof of that? Hey, Feminem is in the house. And the judge is making it worse. I agree. The judge is horrible. She's absolutely horrible. I think so too, true crime and other stuff. After the murders, the Anthony Schatz account said to someone else in messages that he was meant to meet Libby at the bridge, but she didn't show. Exactly. But my question is about the FBI. Why did they not use the FBI in their investigation? Or did they? Because I know they used the FBI in Keegan Klein's investigation. But I'm hearing that they did not utilize the FBI for their phone data, like recovery. Is that true? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this week goes, though. We'll do another update. We'll see how much, comes out Monday and Tuesday. Why did the judge recuse himself? You guys, if you go back and watch the press conferences from this case, it is weird. They used FBI for tech. There's news stories on it going back to 2017. Thank you, SS. Because I heard that they asked the FBI to not be involved at some point. So I don't know. The judge wouldn't allow a lot of evidence in. Yeah, it's messed up. But like I said, they're making it virtually impossible for people to even go and watch. It's like she's deterring people from coming in person, and that is sus. So who unblocked her the next day, if that's true? Because Keegan denied, saying he was going to meet her, and she didn't show. He told the officer that was lies. What's weird and messed up is it makes me ashamed to be a Hoosier. They did ask for the FBI to leave. That's what I thought, bonkers. How did their bodies end up on the other side of the river? Well, Potato thinks that maybe they were unalived in the river. As a parent, you're not getting me out of the woods that night, so why stop the search? That's what itches my crawl. I would agree with you, Jay, if the true crime community and lawyers could be trusted, but they can't be. Maybe if idiots didn't try to film the jurors, the judge might allow more. Maybe if they... What do you mean? Who tried to film the jurors, Banta? You're going to lose your mind when you hear this. Who was there that day? David McCain. Well, who was his lawyer in 2017? Well, that would be Nick McClelland's office. Look up as above. So below Warlian? What? That's when they said there was no blood and the bodies were clean. Well, okay. Let's talk about that, Potato. They said that Richard Allen knows information that only the killer would know. Could it be that the condition of the bodies? There were 4 people kicked out the first day. It was an accident. They thought it was Richard Allen and it was the jurors. Oh. Well, I can see why they would, stop the search at night, but it's kind of different than they did in like Tennessee. Bonkers. I can't control that. I don't know. How do we know what's misinformation and what's not? We have to just let it play out. Okay. Everybody's got their things they've heard and all of that. We just have to let it play out in court and cover what we're hearing from in court. Weird that the sheriff said the community was safe. That does not fit RA. The sketches don't fit RA. Most likely it is RA, but law enforcement did not seem to have a clue. Right, I don't know what's misinfo either. So I think we just have to let it go and let it play out in court, because they're saying loaded hot that his dad did not use the account. Law enforcement said his dad did not, but that they said there were 2 people. And you know what? The only other time I've heard the police kicking out the FBI and saying we don't need you is in the damn Rex Heuermann case. They wanted the FBI out of their biz. Hey, Petty, good to see you. Everything's good, man. Everything's good, Petty. Thanks. Everything's calm right now. Yeah, I mean, they had like Tennessee had the TBI drones up, they had the fixed wing aircraft, they were using the thermal imaging. Why didn't they use thermal imaging for Abby and Libby, thinking they could be lost in those woods? Aw, Angie, the kids were at camp. How fun. I've never seen them really kick out. No, Tennessee. Summer Wells was Tennessee. But you want to hear something that's really weird? And I hope this doesn't lock up my computer. I'm going to try to send this to myself here. Hopefully I don't get locked up, because I really want you guys to see this, because a year ago, speaking of Kentucky, that's what really made me think of that. Thank you for jogging my brain on this. If I can't get it to load, I might just have to play it. But I'd rather you guys be able to see it. So bear with me for a second. I really need a new laptop. I have nothing open but Chrome and this Talk Studio. And when I'm on here for too long, it really gets bogged down. And I don't know why it does this. But it's super annoying because I can barely do anything. I can't pin comments. I don't even know if you guys can hear me right now. Put a 1 if you can still hear me. Judge took several phones and kicked people out after wiping out those cameras. They can't come back. Clear your cache out. Is that what it is? I'll have to try that, because this is maddening. It does it on my desktop too. Thank you, Banta. I'll try that. But there's a murder that happened in Kentucky. Mr. and Mrs. Stevenson. And this was 13 years ago. Boone County, Kentucky. And I have gone over this before. In a previous stream, but it's really wild. I don't know if many people have heard of this. Please bear with me for a second here. I am lagging bad. NBC News cameras confiscated. You're kidding me. And that's like what she considers real media. Okay, let's see here. It says I'm sharing. Let's see if this plays. Fuck a duck. This is ridiculous. All right, F it. I'm going to have to just play it. Okay, I'm just going to play the article. Here we go.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime.
They banned Associated Press and NBC? Holy shit. Bye, Pine. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Okay, here we go. This is about the Stevenson murder in Kentucky. This is 13 years ago. One of Boone County's most horrific killings remains unsolved nearly 12 years later. But the detectives working the Stevenson case are leaving no stone unturned. This is March 1st, 2023. Listen.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
One of Boone County's most horrific killings remains unsolved. It's 12 years later, but the detectives working the Stevenson case are leaving no stone unturned. In recent months, their investigation has led them even to Indiana to look at a possible connection to this highly publicized Delphi murders.
Yeah, Jessica Schmidt digs into these new developments in part one of this story from Cincinnati's Crime Vault.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner make up Boone County's cold case unit, yet they say the murder of Bill and Peggy Stevenson is far from cold. In fact, they've traveled to at least 14 other states to follow up on leads, including several trips to Delphi, Indiana. And they're pursuing potential breaks in the case using a DNA profile. May 29th, 2011 was a sunny Sunday in the suburbs.
It was a spring day, like most around here in northern Kentucky.
But the day quickly turned dark after a gruesome discovery.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
Two people, both 74 years old, were found dead inside their Boone County home. A beloved husband and wife, Bill and Peggy Stevenson. A concerned family member found them when they didn't show up for church.
We think it was, a very quick surprise attack. There was some blunt force trauma.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner, Tim Adams, were sent to the scene. The house had been altered and the bodies were staged.
There were things that were done to their bodies that was horrific. They changed several things in the scene, which is really, really unusual for any murder scene anywhere in the country or in the world.
Whoever killed the couple did not take off right away.
There was quite a bit of time that the perpetrators, the killers, stayed in the residence or felt comfortable coming back to the scene.
In general, detectives believe that kind of behavior points to a suspect who knows the victims. And Bill and Peggy Stevenson were loved by many.
They were amazing people, good Christian people. They wanted to share their faith and their love with the community. And
they've missed out on so much. They've missed out on weddings. They've missed out on 3 new great-grandbabies, graduations, like I said, weddings of the grandkids. All the grandkids are married.
That's Bill and Peggy's daughter, Beth Stevenson Victor. She describes her parents as devoted churchgoers, a couple who loved their big family. Peggy was the quiet one, an experienced and talented musician.
Played for many weddings, funerals, played for a couple of the grandkids' weddings. She loved to play the organ. She played the piano too.
Bill was the opposite, known as the life of the party, a man heavily involved in ministry. He shared his faith with truck drivers every Sunday at a truck stop in Florence.
They had a trailer out that they would open up during the week, and if truckers wanted to stop in and pray, they would pray with them.
That connection to the community became a possible lead for detectives Cox and Adams. Today, they handle the sheriff's cold case unit, but they're still investigating the Stevenson case. Over the years, they've interviewed a lot of truck drivers.
Early on in the investigation, we had information that someone had been at the truck stop looking for Bill pretty aggressively, banging on the door of the chapel, asking if anyone had seen Bill.
There are truckers they've ruled out, others still on their radar. They've also looked into Charles Stevie Stevenson, the nephew of Bill and Peggy. Detective Cox says they've even spoken to him recently. Stevie is locked up, spending life in prison for beating an Indiana woman to death with a skillet.
We feel pretty comfortable that that's in a good place. There is no final statement on there. It isn't that he's been cleared, but we have certainly vetted him in every way possible.
One of the largest developments in the case could still bring them the break they need to close it. Detective Cox says they have an unknown DNA profile.
We don't know who that DNA belongs to, and it was found at our crime scene.
It is complex, so genealogy isn't an option, at least right now. There is testing they can do to try to find a match, and that's something they're actively pursuing.
We're just still hopeful, that they'll come up with the right evidence that they need, and a confession would be great. But we're still hopeful that they'll solve it.
More than a decade later, tips continue to come in. Detectives even traveled across state lines in recent weeks to see if what happened to the Stevensons has any connection to the murder of 2 young girls in Delphi.
We had received some information from an individual regarding the Delphi murders in Indiana, and they had said, for all of these reasons, we believe it may be the same person that was involved in the Stevenson case.
There's still much more to share, and part 2 will explain what detectives are doing now with that DNA.
Okay, so that was a year ago, and they got a tip that it could be the same person as Delphi. Isn't that wild? What do you guys think of that? The Stevenson case. It's been over a year now, and they said that they are they have unknown DNA that they're testing. And now we have this hair. It's weird. No one cares about Snae's personal life, honestly. Or whatever his name is, Slay. I don't know his name. Let's not talk about other creators. Let's not do that. So I guess we have to wait and see. How long is it going to take them to test this hair? When are we going to find out? I just thought it was wild that they, were traveling to Delphi. You don't think they're related? It is interesting, Crimson. There's a lot of twists and turns to this case. I thought he had a YouTube channel. That's where I saw Rick Snae years ago. He was on YouTube talking about this case, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Banta, he had a YouTube channel. I used to watch it. But see, they're not giving a lot of details of what was done to the Stevensons. But they're saying it's like nothing else in this country or in this world of what they did in there. And they spent time in the house. Like they were in the house for over an hour after this older couple was unalived. Yeah, I don't know if he's still on YouTube or not. I just watched him a couple times. Delphi After Dark, yeah. Rick said Ron Logan wasn't BG. Now he's saying Ron Logan is BG. What's BG? Oh, Bridge Guy. Yeah, but that's just someone's opinion. Anybody can have an opinion. None of us know what happened. Excuse me. I have the hiccups. Snae is best pals with Tony Klein. Well, maybe he's trying to get info. That's a lot of times why these people talk to these people is to try to get info. So I don't know. I can't say anything about. But have they said, and this is what is unclear to me, have they said if Abby or Libby were essayed? Because I'm hearing that he was busted, and that's why he quickly unalived them and took off. Right. A lot of people say things for certain reasons. So I just don't want to hang on to it. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what happens in court. And that's what we're going to be waiting for, guys. They said no essay, right? They tried to, they got spooked or whatever, I think is what they're saying, Mama Bear. I'm having a hard time believing he did this all within hours. It's a lot. According to court records, the girls were not essayed. You can't convince me, says Tara, that Keegan Klein isn't connected to their deaths. Literally, one of his profiles were talking to Libby. I only heard he was interrupted, right. And we heard that the bodies were clean all this time. And now we're hearing that it was not clean. And we're hearing that Richard Allen had information that only the killer would know. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say that Richard Allen maybe said something about the condition of the bodies or something. It has to be something like that. Something only the killer would know. So that'll be interesting to find out. If one was naked. Well, they may have been wanting to do the essay and then got spooked. And why are the girls why are the girls why are they wearing the clothes being switched? It's very weird. And for this to happen in broad daylight is absolutely terrifying. You think Tony used the phone that morning, green-eyed? But they said that about KK as well, right? What's that, young black? Have you guys hit that thumbs up yet? That's the real question here. Undressing and redressing is part of their rituals? Bernie says, I think it was definitely an essay attempt. I agree. The girls ran. That's why one shoe was found on one side of the river and the bodies on the other. I just think that we really need, like, from the prosecution, we need to know what happened. Like, they need to lay out the story, how this went down. And I just don't feel like they've done that so far. They said no essay, but sexual in nature. KK said something only the killer would know. And they say the same thing about RA. Broad daylight in a small little tiny town that probably hardly had any crime. 60-some confessions. Yeah, JLR went down the hill and showed it's very steep. So how did Richard Allen manage to, in his 40s, get down that hill? Well, I mean, if you have a gun held on somebody, they're gonna be compliant. So I think that's why. And maybe he said get undressed in order to control them, knowing that they wouldn't, run naked. Body mentioned there may be an Odin. Yeah, we went over the Odinism. We had Nils the Iron Horse on. We talked about Odinism, what Odinism is. It's all in my playlist for this case, if you guys want to go back. Will the court transcripts be public after the trial? Who knows what this judge will do? Tony, please check out James Chadwell. Okay. Oops. I've never heard of James Chadwell. This gets into gross territory, but he had to stop them. And once they've passed, I mean, it's a whole different thing. Yeah. Nils is awesome. We dug deep into the Odinism. We know everyone on the trail from the time... Wait, hold on. God, this chat. SS, where'd your comment go? We know everyone that was on the trail from the time they got there through the person passing by the store on the road with the sighting of them in mud and blood. I think it's weird that the judge won't allow them to use their defense. They have to find a different defense. Chadwell has tattoos of the girls. Did he know them? There's just been so many conspiracies around this case. But Odinism, listen, Odinism is not evil. That's why I had Nils on, because Nils is an Odin or whatever. And they're not evil. They don't want to kill people. And furthermore, what I don't believe about the Odinism thing is that the Odinism that runs through the corrections department and stuff is like racist based. They like have skewed Odinism for their own beliefs. And why would white supremacists unalive white girls? That's what I don't understand about that. Chadwell raped a 9. Ugh. I just don't think that the Odinism is anything. Bernie says, I'm in Delphi. That area is steep. Alan, on his wife's Facebook back in the day, climbed mountains in Tennessee. Hey, let's not also forget that Richard Allen's daughter had her senior picture taken on the bridge. Do you remember that? Nils the Ironwood is doing great with hurricane victims taking supplies. Yes, he is, Angie. You're literally from Norway, and my father was an Odinist. Sacrifice is important to Odin. But I feel like the COs, the correction officers, they skew Odinism. Do you know what I'm saying? Alan served in the National Guard. How do you know all this, Banta? And also, what do you guys think about Judge Gall holding court on Saturdays? What a bitch. Iron Wolf, Ironwood. The bridge pick of Alan's daughter was before Abby and Libby. But I'm wondering, Banta, is that a popular place for senior pictures? You think it's an offshoot Odin thing with drugs involved, Trish? Scotland is getting battered with bad weather. Oh my gosh, Casper, stay. I didn't know you were in Scotland. Stay safe. "13th Hour says Norse pagan misinformation being spread in here. Please stop." Well, like I said, I have a whole video with Nils the Iron Horse, Iron Wolf. I always say horse. It's public knowledge he did serve. Okay, I didn't know that. Abby's mom was dating a black guy. Just throwing that out there. Seagull reminds me of the principal in Matilda. He offered up his home, Jay, and family during the hurricane. Aw, Nils is great. And you know what? Nils also kept me in, like, he was giving me updates via text on the hurricane when I was evacuating. He's such a kind man. The prosecution needs to prove their theory beyond a reasonable doubt. RA being there just isn't enough. Well, I guess before we conclude this stream, which I want to thank all of you guys for being here and listening, and I'm going to keep, finding the clips and we'll go through this. No, Kristen, he explained what Odinism is. And they're not evil, is what I'm telling you. True Odinism is not about unaliving young girls and leaving them staged. It's just not. I believe Libby was dating the Odinist son. If she was dating someone, though, why was she meeting Anthony Schatz? No, I don't think Norse pagan is evil. No, I don't. You do? I implore you to watch my interview. Let me find the link for you guys. It's important. I mean, he really dispelled a lot of myths, and I mean, we went over the symbols and everything. We were 1 year ago. Norse pagan insight on Delphi crime scene. Right here. Share. Insight on here. I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys can watch it or listen to it today. It's not evil. Please just hear it out first. Well, Kristen, I think everybody's different, and I didn't take that personal or anything, but please, listen, hear him out. Hear out Nils, and let me know what you think. Because this has been a year. I'm going to re-listen to it today, too, because I haven't listened to it in a while. Thanks, Frag. Dating for middle schoolers is a very casual thing. Can I suggest a deep dive on theories? Yeah. Do you guys want to do like a panel? Do you guys want to do a panel where you can come up and we can, like, the people in here that have, followed this closely, we can all talk? Because there's a lot of different theories. We have people who think the family was not telling the truth. We have people who think that, Richard Allen didn't do anything. We have people that think Richard Allen dead. We have a lot of differing opinions and a lot of things that I think, people could talk about. I'm an animist, which is similar to paganism, and there is absolutely no harm done to any living thing. And that's exactly what Nils said. Ashley says, let's do it. All right, we will. The phone pings and then goes blank and then starts pinging again later. Yeah, Shauna, that's weird too. And remember, we also heard that there was a bloody handprint on the tree. So I don't know, like, how we even believed. I don't know how we even believed. Can't remember what I was saying. Oh, that the bodies were clean. When we heard later that there was blood on the tree and shit. So we were thinking that they were unalived in the water to make the bodies clean. But now we're hearing that one of the bodies was naked and covered in blood. So make it make sense, right? But anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. You guys, if you could listen to that, we can discuss it. If you haven't heard it, please comment on the video and let me know what you think. Christina Randall has some really good videos. Thanks, Carl. There's a lot of really good videos out there. Like I said, Lawyer Lee, Andrea Burkhart, those two are definitely weathering the storm. They are there fucking the night before to get into the courtroom. So please do go subscribe to their channels. And we will pick this up after we get some more testimony. And in the meantime, I will put together a little panel discussion where we can all kind of weigh in on what we think. I know, Paisley. It's a bummer that there's no cameras. This is really if there was ever a trial that I think we needed cameras in, it's this one. And you guys have a great 13th hour. Absolutely. You are more than welcome. Thank you, Potato. Right. Not every Odinist is a good person. That's exactly right. But I think that just like, with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, they skewed the LDS religion, right? I mean, there's always people that take things and twist them to fit their narrative. So that could be what we're dealing with that as well. I love all of you guys too. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. If you could hit that like button, I would appreciate that even more. And then also, if you want to become a clicker, the moderators can let you know how to do that. And thank you, everyone, for being respectful. I know everybody has different opinions on this case, but at the end of the day, we really just want justice for Abby and Libby. We don't want the wrong person to go down. We want everybody who, had knowledge of this to go down. So Ganja, you have a good Sunday. Everybody enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your fall Sunday. It's feeling like fall. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one. We will be live with Sarah Boone at 9 a.m. Monday morning tomorrow. Hopefully, I will see you guys there. We're going to follow that trial during the day, and then we will do these updates in the evenings. So thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next one.